I know there's a lot of green candles on this Ethereum monthly chart zoomed out, but this one that is happening right now, so urgent for altcoin holders. I'm going to show you 4 data points why I think this Ethereum chart is probably the most important crypto chart to pay attention to. Even if you don't hold Ethereum, XRP zoomed out on the weekly chart right now, setting up a foundation for 2 higher high moves to 2 all-time high targets, and ADA on the weekly. Many of you know I'm an ADA bull, and the setup is just insane, but it's the ADA BTC chart that is showing exceptionally bullish data, especially when it comes to the momentum oscillators. Hit the subscribe, hit the like on the way in. Let's jump into the video. We're going to pull a ton of data from these 3 blue chips in this video. It doesn't actually even matter if you hold any of them. If you're a holder of a lower cap altcoin, what we're going to get here in terms of indications is huge for this upcoming bull market. Many lower cap altcoins are going to outperform these blue chips. So it's worth paying attention to what's going on here. So please, it might be a little bit longer of a video. Feel free to cruise around, hit the timestamps, but let's start with Ethereum. I mentioned the monthly chart. I want to dig into it, but the story that is playing out on this monthly chart right now is huge. And that is this. If we go and we look at Ethereum on the weekly, there's that pullback, a pullback that we've waited quite some time for. This clip was actually from the end of March. Check this out. But right now, the first week of April, as we're looking for a potential bounce in these markets, I'm still looking for and waiting for a pullback. Specifically, I didn't know how long I was going to be waiting, but that move right there happened. This is huge for altcoin bull market. And I just want to make a note that is absolutely nothing special that I did. All I do on this YouTube channel is I track technical rules. One of the rules is huge pattern. Doesn't matter if it was a small pattern on an hourly chart. We wait for pullbacks to test the pattern. So with that being said, this entire video is kind of a macro bullish outlook, a macro minded investor outlook. But at the same time, if we're zoomed in, the rest of this week could be red. We might dip. There's room for that, especially as Ethereum is kind of hitting this lower trend line. This is a multi-year lower trend line resistance now. Ethereum has to break above it. And that's something that we're going to be waiting for to see if it happens. Notice the 50-week and the 20-week and the 200-week. Ethereum is between all of those as it tests that trend line. So it's going to be very telling to see what happens in the next 5 days before we see this weekly candle close. We want to see Ethereum break into the apex here and turn this into a busted pattern. Busted pattern meaning fake breakout to the downside, pull back to the apex, and we actually get the bullish move to the upside. On to the 4 data points as it relates to Ethereum on the monthly, and then I want to look at that zoomed out weekly on XRP. Here's the deal. When it comes to Ethereum right now for altcoins, it really is an indicator of all indicators for altcoin bull market. Let's start on the price chart. Just make a note of the moving averages, how converged they are together. I mean, Ethereum right now is not even above both of them. We're testing the 20-month moving average right now. We're slightly above the 50-month, but look at Ethereum when it's getting ready to make a bull move. This isn't even a bull market, actually, but look how converged those moving averages are, and then we get a nice little bull move. This was kind of exiting the bear market, that first swing high, and then you have the separation of those moving averages. But bull market separation is something like this last cycle, converging of the 2 moving averages, and then true separation of the 20-month above the 50. Look how close they are right now. That is 100% in store. And that becomes very clear when we start looking at the momentum oscillators for Ethereum. Check this out. There's 3 momentum oscillators here. So there's moving averages is 1, and now we have these 3 oscillators. Check out the stock RSI. Basically, the only time Ethereum has ever been so oversold were the previous 2 bear markets. And what's really bullish about this is the fact that this is not a bear market. This move into oversold is not a bear market move. This, to me, is a very nice picture of how irrational markets have been, especially through April in that high fear environment. But either way, it doesn't matter. Oversold, undervalued. That's what I'm seeing here in terms of Ethereum. Go to the MACD, the momentum on the MACD indicator, not even at 0 on the histogram. The histogram just starting to trend up. We have a ways to go before it even turns green on this monthly. The MACD line has a ways to go before it even crosses the red signal line. So that signals that the room for upside for Ethereum is massive. Lastly, probably, I know those are actually two very bullish looking indicators, but maybe the more exciting one is kind of this very actionable looking indicator. That's the RSI, a slower moving momentum indicator, but it's the trend line that we have here, this lower high trend line, because we start seeing Ethereum break that trend. That's a very bullish move. That's a very bullish confirmation area. So that's what I'm going to be watching on this monthly chart. But all the while, the whole point is, even if you don't hold Ethereum, if these things play out and Ethereum makes the move to the upside on this macro, guess what? That's going to be huge for altcoins. It's going to be huge for lower caps. So that's why I'm watching Ethereum so much. I want to go to XRP and I want to look at what's happening on the weekly. I mentioned 2 higher high, all-time high targets. I want to discuss that. And I want to use one of our this is actually like our newest risk model in the Crypto Capital Venture Intelligence system. It's XRP. Took a bit of data science work, special data science work to get this done. But check this out. And actually, by the way, I just want to take like a minute to say something in regards to our intelligence system. This is a new business of mine. Let me just say that, but I want to be very candid with you. I'm very excited to grow this new business, but please know that as I talk about this and use these tools, for me, this is like a secret weapon for me this cycle. The tools that we have here now, I feel are going to help me succeed in a way that I did not succeed in previous cycles. And that's why I'm, first off, very excited to use the tools. But obviously, I'm starting a business here. We just launched. We have hundreds of people coming in with awesome feedback. I'm excited. But please note, it will be impossible for me to do videos anymore without using our tools, our indicators. These are proprietary custom tools because I'm using them. And this is what my YouTube channel has been about, is me just tracking data and showing you my journey. Well, this is a huge part of it now because I really think the risk models that we have for tons of altcoins, the exit strategies, the risk mode that's being built into exit strategies, it's going to help so many people in terms of not round tripping another bull market. And even when we get to bear markets, just accumulating and knowing when and how to do that. So I want to let you know that I'm going to try and be mindful and balanced. And I will try not to come off shilling this, okay? Because I know some of you are probably thinking that. But at the same time, I want to be completely upfront with you. I'm going to be using the system nonstop. And obviously, I want as many people to join as possible. And I really want to get this tool into as many people's hands as possible because I think it's going to be helpful. But just know I'm using it too, and I'm excited about it. So the XRP model that we're going to look at is in here. And that's a Bitcoin model that I have on the screen, by the way, but the XRP model is right here. So if we open up the risk map, what I want to just talk about real briefly, and this is applying to the charts here and those 2 all-time high targets, is I'm looking at the 2017 cycle, right? Just look how XRP just exited this previous winter, right? If you look at the risk model here, and by the way, this is all about a high score and a low score, high risk, low risk. So if you want to explain it very, very simply, the range is from 0 to 100. It measures long-term investment risk of a crypto, and the lower scores indicate less risk, higher, better buying opportunities, and the higher scores are basically suggesting increased risk. So basically, if it's turning red and it's a high risk of 100, it's probably a good time to exit. Even the 90s in many of these charts, in the 80s even, it's a good time to start exiting. But notice how that becomes helpful in terms of using this in real time mode, right? In a bull market, because you're pulling all this data from just this chart data that's saying, hey, at this level, last cycle or the last 2 cycles, this is a good time to exit. It's getting risky, right? But notice that first exit out of the 2017 winter, 2016, 2017 winter, that move, right? Basically into the 60s, but 50s kind of into the 60s. Right now, this risk score is 53 on XRP. Very similar. Just exiting that winter, heading into that area. The only difference here right now is, as you can very clearly see, the timeline. This has been extended consolidation. Back here was a very quick break and then boom, next swing high. But even so, if we go to the XRP chart and we actually look at that entire area, so again, similar risk score in the 50s, similar risk score in the 50s. taking a break, taking a break. What's that first swing high going to look like from here? And is there going to be a break and then another swing high? Because there's two targets that I've been talking about on this YouTube channel. And that is, number one, last cycle's failed bull market. That's the target, right? And what that is a higher high 1618. So the bull market from 2018 to bear market low. And then it was just that move that I think XRP would have made here if it wasn't for SEC destroying the bull market. That's the first target I'm waiting for right now. That's around $5, $5.30. If that move happens, I don't think that's necessarily the bull market top for XRP, but will there be consolidation there? Right? Very similar to what we saw happen here on the risk model. Will we see a risk model cool down? This is speculation, but I'm very much kind of curious to see what happens if we hit this target, because I have a bull market high for this cycle in that $500 billion range. And that's around, it's just above $8. And by the way, I should mention, that's two swing high, all-time high targets. Whether we hit either one, I don't know. But these are just kind of targets that I have in play for XRP this cycle. What's cool about the risk model is when you go to something like our exit planner, and XRP is in our exit planner now, soon you will be able to activate risk mode. And very simply, instead of only using price to set your sells and just visualize how you're going to exit and take profit this cycle, you can actually set your sells with risk mode. And so when we're looking at a risk model chart, imagine just putting all emotion aside and just being like, you know what? We get to 80 on the risk levels, selling, and we don't know what the price will be, but that's going to play heavily into XRP exits and the exit strategy for XRP and every other asset really. But that's XRP. So those targets to the upside. I want to make one note on the daily chart, and then we'll look at ADA because it's actually the same on the ADA chart. This lower high on the daily, I think this is a good area to watch potentially if these charts continue to the upside. This is a resistance area. One good sign, one good kind of hopium that we might look at right now is, as we're approaching this lower high, is guess what? Bitcoin, if we go to its own daily chart, has broken already the Fibonacci lower high. The reason why that's meaningful to me is because we can't just sit here and say, hey, Bitcoin broke it, XRP is going to break it, ADA is going to break it. The reason why it's meaningful is because check out Bitcoin after that last crazy consolidation, right? All the way back here, 2024, breaking that lower high Fibonacci. It was the end of October. You can see Bitcoin right there, nicely above the Fibonacci. Go look at XRP at that moment. So I have a red arrow there. That's what XRP was doing at the end of October, not making any type of move, certainly not breaking any type of meaningful Fibonacci. But then days later, even some downside, days later, boom, it started to follow and it broke all these lower highs, like months of lower highs. It broke them within days. So when it comes to XRP potentially following in Bitcoin's footsteps once again, guess what? That move is in play. That's an interesting Fibonacci range that I'll be watching on XRP. That resistance area is around 270 to around $3. Let's see if XRP can even get there. We might need some consolidation on the way up, right? So, that could look like coming back down a little, bringing these moving averages up, and then testing it. But let's see if it follows in Bitcoin's footsteps. ADA on the weekly chart. I talk about the weekly so often. We know we're in the bull market doors if you've been watching my Cardano videos. I don't want to just repeat that. But what I did want to do in this video, especially as we've been kind of comparing, obviously, the move in ADA and this consolidation right here to pre-bull market move last cycle, even from the risk model on ADA in our system, very similar. I wanted to look at ADA BTC because we have some very nice bullish indicators over here. So we can look at the same time frame. There's a very similar structure and formations happening right now. Check this out. This time last cycle, there's kind of like this double bottom feature that you see right there. Well, this is kind of what we're running into right now, a double bottom. You can even see this 20-week moving average starting to trend down and can kind of consolidate towards the 50. That's exactly what was happening here, 20 to the 50. ADA actually on the BTC pair looking quite terrible. And then all of a sudden just explosive move. Not looking amazing right now, right? If you just look at that. But then you start looking at oscillators. And here we are at that moment last cycle, kind of a double bottom on the RSI. Check this out. Look at this double bottom on the RSI, such similar momentum structure. And then look at the MACD. MACD starting to trend upwards on this ADA BTC. We want to see that continued momentum. We don't know. It might hobble around. It might come back down a little bit. Who knows what this is going to look like? But you go back, we zoom out. We go back to 2020. There it is. That MACD crossing above that signal line. And you can even see actually there, like it's red and then it's like light red and then it's red again, light red. We might get something similar, right? We might get that kind of consolidation, fake out type of consolidation, but time will tell. But the similarities there are quite reflective. Even the stock RSI, this quicker moving momentum oscillator, there it is right here. And then at that moment last cycle, there it is right there, very oversold, ready for a pump. So that's ADA on the BTC. I wanted to point out to you. Now on the daily chart, there's ADA's lower high Fibonacci that we just looked at kind of on XRP. Will ADA follow the footsteps of Bitcoin and break this lower high Fibonacci? That short-term resistance to look out for if ADA makes a move, a bullish move, would be $1.15 to around just around $1 at that 618 line. So if ADA manages to break that area, we might have a very similar breakout starting very soon, like we saw back here. Shortly after Bitcoin broke its own Fibonacci at this moment, you see ADA consolidated down and then explosive move. Maybe even now we consolidate down and then we make our explosive move. This is speculation, of course, especially the zoomed in, but I'm very much a macro-minded, zoomed out investor. I think crypto is lined up very nicely. I think things are coming together very well, especially if you're a macro bull. This is all the data. I'm just presenting it to you. I have no idea what's going to happen. I'm just on that journey with y'all. So if you're out there, hit the subscribe, hit that like button if you enjoyed this content. And again, we have a very big discount going on. So if you are interested in kind of getting these tools that we're working on and building, please hit the link below. We have a 40% discount going on. And I would just be so happy to have you on board. I appreciate all of you out there. I'll see you in the next video. God bless.